Okay, Chag Sameach. So we've made it to the final day of Pesach, guys. Very, very well done. And today there's one thing that's on our mind. It's exactly what happened on the seventh day of Pesach when we left Egypt. And what is that? What did we just read? About the splitting of the sea. Look at that. That's what we're reading about today, right? The splitting of the sea. Right, so that is the focus for today's Haftarah. Now, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but I put up blue curtains at the entrance of the shul this week, for the whole week of Pesach. To get that idea that you're walking in between the waves of the ocean, so you can come in here to celebrate our redemption from Egypt. Remember the miracle, what happened. All right, so Pesach itself is the framework for redemption and what redemption looks like, right? But it's very interesting to point out that Pesach is how many days long? 7, not 1. Like some other festivals, we only have 1 day to remember. Pesach is a 7-day long festival with a Yom Tov in the beginning on the first day and a Yom Tov again here at the end. We've bookended it with another Yom Tov to teach us the lesson that redemption isn't once off. It's a process that takes time. There's a first day to redemption and there's a final day to redemption. The same with salvation as well. It's a process, right? Egypt, the first night when we were in our houses, Hashem performed for every single one of us an individual salvation per household. We had to paint our own doorposts with the blood of that lamb. But on the seventh day of Pesach, when we made it to the sea, Hashem performed for us a national redemption and a national salvation. And the seventh day of Pesach always foreshadows the great and final ultimate redemption that we'll see when the Mashiach returns. That's why in traditional Hasidic Judaism we have today, usually in the afternoon, you have the Mashiach meal. Today is all about looking towards the future and the final great redemption. So I thought, let me speak about that today, especially in light of the fact that we still have the wedding coming this weekend. And there seems to be a theme this year for Pesach talking about weddings. Not only the fact that we're having a wedding in the congregation this coming weekend, but also the fact that even on Wednesday nights, with our Torah Club study, we've been studying the final Messianic banquet, the wedding supper of the Lamb with Yeshua as well. And for those of you that have nothing better to do tonight after you've eaten and stuffed your face with pizza, after Pesach has ended, we're going to be studying the menu for the Messianic banquet tonight in our Torah Club. We'll be discussing the giant ox and Leviathan, the behemoth and Leviathan tonight. For those of you that have got nothing better to do, you can join us with that as well. So today I want to use this opportunity to take one last look at Pesach through the lens of marriage and the upcoming wedding. I might just use this as the sermon at the wedding. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how much time I've got to prepare. So there's a very famous statement in the Talmud and in the Midrash about the splitting of the sea that connects it with the wedding. It's in Sanhedrin 22a. It says, finding the right partner, finding the right match. How easy is that? Is as difficult as the splitting of the sea in the book of Exodus. Famous saying from our sages. To find the right match is as difficult as the splitting of the sea in the book of Exodus. What a strange thing to say, don't you think? Well, there's a proof text that's given for this by the Rabbi Yochanan, in Tractate Sanhedrin 22a. I tried to find it in the Siddur. I couldn't find the Psalm anywhere in the Siddur. But it's Psalm 68 verse 7. This is the proof text that tells us that that's how difficult it is to find the right match. So it says in the Talmud, Sanhedrin 22a, Rabbi Yochanan says, it's as difficult to match a couple up as the splitting of the Red Sea, as it says in Psalm 68 verse 7. God makes the solitary, right, the singles, who are too afraid to mingle, God makes the singles into, He makes them dwell in a house. Now a house is actually one of the names you use for your wife. Once you get a wife, you get yourself a house. You can finally start building a family. So it says in Psalm 68 verse 7, God makes the solitary dwell in a house, meaning that God makes the singles get married. He brings out prisoners into prosperity. When last you guys have a prosperity teaching? Today's your prosperity teaching. Okay. Now, the rabbi says, do not read the verse, brings out prisoners. Rather, read it in the proper Hebrew understanding. It's like bringing out prisoners. What's that a reference to? The redemption from Egypt, when God brought us out of the prison of Egypt, out of slavery, and He split the sea for us. It's a reference to the redemption from Egypt. So what it says then, according to this rabbi, is like bringing them out of Egypt when God split the sea, God causes the solitary, the singles, to dwell in a house to get married. It's the same type of difficulty. That's what he's saying here. He says it's just as difficult to split the sea as it is to put someone who's single into a house, into a marriage that actually works. Right? But the verse doesn't end there, because the psalm ends off by saying, and brings them prosperity. Ne? So the word for prosperity in Hebrew is the word bakasharot. Sounds like a kosher rat. Bakasharot. So the rabbi says, do not read it as one word. Split it in half. It's two words. He says, the word bechi means to cry, and veshirot, what is shirot? Songs, singing. He brings you to crying and to singing. Why? Because at the splitting of the sea, that's what happened. We cried out to Hashem, and then He split the sea for us, and we started singing. Israel. Right, so the question is, what type of singing is it? Is it tears of joy or is it tears of sadness? It can be both, right? At a wedding, of course, that's the one moment in your life where you really cry tears of joy. But I don't think that's what it's talking about here, because the context that the story is, of course, the Israelites who cried out to Hashem when they arrived at the sea and they didn't know what to do. In front of them was a massive sea with waves. Behind them was the oncoming army of the Egyptians. And they cried out to Hashem, and Hashem answered them by splitting the sea. And I think that marriage has the same context as well. For example, I was at a point in my life where I prayed for a wife. And after a few years, I got a bit impatient. And it was tough. And I was crying many tears for many nights, thinking, okay, Hashem doesn't want me to get married. Fine, I'll just do this thing on my own. And I just gave up on finding love. It's one of these that he says. I felt so sorry for myself, really. It's horrible to think back on it now. I thought no one's ever going to marry this ogre, etc. Right? It was a horrible time in my life. I went into deep depression, etc. I had to get a medication, all sorts of stuff. It was a very tough time in my life. And then, Baruch Hashem, out of nowhere, across the seas, I got myself a nice Viking wife. Right? Baruch Hashem for that. But I shed many tears before that stage. And then Hashem came and performed that miracle for me. There was light at the end of this tunnel. That solitary person that it speaks about in the Psalm was me at that time. And Hashem answered me just like He did those in Egypt. And I'm pretty sure that our wedding couple this weekend have also shed many tears for many years trying to find the right spouse. I'm not going to share all the details to you, but I can testify that that is the fact for both of them as well. And then comes Hashem. And He pulls off a miracle beyond our comprehension. A miracle at the same level as the splitting of the sea when He finds your match for you to allow you to get married. Not just any match, but to find you the perfect match. And please God, 9 months after the wedding, the water will split again when the water breaks. And the baby will be here. Right, that's the plan. Okay, so. No, calm down. There's the honeymoon phase first again. Okay, so. Some might ask the question though, is it really such a difficult thing to find a match that our sages compare it to the splitting of the sea? Some people just match up their friends and say, you guys, you drive red cars together, both of you, so you guys are a good match. Ne? And they get married. But here's the question, how many of those matches are perfect? How many of those matches are made in heaven? Majority of the matches in the world today are not made in heaven. Right? So the statement is actually really true. To find the perfect match is as difficult as the splitting of the sea. So this quote from Rabbi Yochanan appears again in the Midrash Rabbah. So let me read to you another story where this psalm is quoted in his name as well, with another story about matchmaking. This is from Bereshit Rabbah 68 verse 4. Okay, so Rav Yehuda Bar Simon began his discourse on the passage with the verse from Psalm 68 verse 7. The Midrash records an incident that demonstrates how marriages are arranged only through divine providence. You thought you had something to do with it? It's all Hashem. A certain matron came and posed the question to Rabbi Yosef Bar Chalafta. She said to him, in how many days did the Holy One, blessed is He, create this world? Rav Yosef answered her, in 6 days, as it says in the Bible, for in 6 days Hashem made the heavens and the earth. Whereupon the matron said back to him, well, what's he been doing since then? He was pretty busy in those first 6 days. What's he been doing since then? It seems as if the world's just carrying on autopilot, right? Rav Yosef said to her, the Holy One, blessed is He, now sits and makes matches all day long, declaring the daughter of so-and-so is destined for so-and-so, etc., etc. The son of so-and-so, destined for so-and-so. So she replied to him, is this really a craft? Even I can do that. I can make matches. I have many slaves and many maidservants, and in a short time I can match them all together. So Rav Yossi said to her, although it seems easy in your eyes, know that it is as difficult before the Holy One, blessed is He, as the splitting of the sea of reeds. Rav Yossi bar Chalafta then left her presence. So what did she do when he left? She took 1,000 of her slaves and 1,000 of her maidservants and stood them in 2 rows. And she said, "Ini mini mini mo, Mari Yetro for Joe." And she matched up all 1,000 of the slaves with 1,000 of the maidservants right on the spot. And she said, "You guys are now married." The following day, all of them came back to her. This one, his head was cracked. He didn't eat the soup. That one's eye was gouged out. Another one's leg was broken. She said to them, "What on earth happened?" The maidservant said, "I do not desire that slave." And the slave said, "I don't want her as a wife." Marriage counseling. Immediately when she saw all 1,000 of them complain, she sent a message and brought Rabbi Yosef bar Chalafta back. And she said to him, "Truly there is no God like your God. Your Torah is true, both beautiful and praiseworthy." Right, so that's how difficult it is to find the right match. Okay, so Baruch Hashem for making another match before our very eyes here in our community. We've witnessed a miracle of equal greatness to the miracle of the splitting of the sea. But there's a Pesach lesson here for all of us as well, whether you're getting married this weekend or not. Why did they decide to compare the miracle to the splitting of the sea? Why not any other miracle? Why not the creation itself? Why not the 10 plagues in Egypt? Why specifically the sea? Because think about the mindset the Israelites were in when they got to the sea. The sea was a moment where there was no visible way forward for them. They were at their ends. They thought they were about to die. They were crying for help. They could not see a way out. They were literally caught between a rock and a hard place. And then Hashem came and made a way where there was no way apparent. That midrash that we just read there tells us a story even stronger, right? That Roman noblewoman tells Rabbi Yosef that matching people is easy. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. She can do it herself. But what looks simple to some is not simple at all. Because matching up the souls of people is very, very, very complex. Human beings are not puzzle pieces, right? Souls are not just furniture that you can move around till the feng shui feels right. Matching up people is extremely, extremely difficult. A home is not built just by convenience. Oh, those two look like a nice match. I think they would match up. It's not how it works. There's something way beyond our understanding when it comes to this. I think it was Portia that told me on Saturday, God really had a sense of humor when He created men and women opposite and then decided to make them get married to each other. I'm like, that's going to work out. Right? It's true, guys. The thing is, only Hashem can see the full picture. Only Hashem knows the timing as well of when you need to find the right person, what person you need, and how that person's going to support you. Only Hashem can open the way for you, just like the splitting of the sea when we thought there was no hope. Just like I used to cry, tears like a sea, let the rivers flow. Hey, cry me a river. Same thing happens as well. Even our apostles had this exact same experience on Pesach with Yeshua. Remember that our apostles, they were certain they had found the Messiah. They were certain that salvation for the whole world had arrived and the Messianic era was about to enter. They were waiting for the Mashiach to destroy Rome. And then what happened? The Romans put Him on a cross. How must they have felt that Pesach? Imagine the feeling in their hearts that Pesach. They were just experiencing the Messiah who brings salvation to the whole world. That's the story of the first night of Pesach. And then He died. They were lost. They were like those Israelites in front of the sea. They spent 3 years of their life following Yeshua. And all of a sudden He died. What about all the promises? What about all the prophecies? What about all the people I told He is the Messiah and here He is hung on a cross? They were thinking all these things on that first day of Pesach in the shul, doing these prayers about resurrection. And then Hashem came and answered them after their dreams were shattered. Even Judas gave up. He said, what? Messiah must die? Psh, I'm out of this. And he left the Pesach Seder and went to McDonald's. Right? They saw no way out. They were questioning their discipleship, their dedication to Yeshua, their last 3 years of work, not knowing how the story would move forward. But in that place where they were stuck with no apparent way out, Hashem came and metaphorically split the sea for them as well by opening the tomb of Yeshua and making him the first of many who were resurrected. In fact, our Midrashim actually pick up on this idea as well and say that this idea of resurrection and the fact that tombs are going to be open on Pesach goes all the way back to the day we left Pesach. Why? Because when everyone else was packing their bags and making patkos with matzahs, what was Moses doing? He went to fetch the bones of Joseph. There's two different versions of the Midrash of how that happened. The one version says that the coffin of Joseph was thrown in the Nile. And Moses spoke to the Nile, and it split, and the coffin came out. The resurrection, technically speaking. The other version says he went into the catacombs of Egypt, and he shouted, "Joseph, we're leaving. Come now or forever hold your peace." And Joseph's coffin started shaking like this, and it fell out of the hole in the wall, and they took it with. So our sages already connect that story with the fact that when we got to the sea, that's what brought the splitting. Because we just sang in the Hallel, David tells us, the sea saw and fled. What did the sea see? What? We sing later in the song, why was it, O sea, that you flee? The Midrash tells us what the sea saw was the coffin of Joseph and the promise of the resurrection. And it somehow got scared. It somehow opened up the way. Just like it opened up the way when Yeshua went to between the sea of the sky, right? The waters also split over there at his ascension. It was at the presence of the Lord. They saw that Mashiach is going to bring the presence of the Lord when he comes and brings the resurrection. It's amazing, the connections. So again and again, the message is that God makes a way. Whether it's life, finances, finding a spouse, God makes a way. But he does it in his own time. Maybe not as fast as we want. Gosh, I had plans to be married by the age of 23 and have 3 kids by the age of 29. God heard my plans and started laughing. But God is always in the correct time, even though he isn't in our time. The God of Israel is still in the business of opening roads for human beings that human beings cannot open. In both cases, with marriage and with the splitting of the sea, Hashem has done something very unlikely. Something so deep and meaningful, so full of hidden mercy, that the proper response, the only thing we can do when Hashem does this for us, is exactly what the Israelites did when they entered that sea, which was cry and sing. The kasharot, the chi and the shirot. So as Pesach comes to a close today, perhaps that's the lesson for us as well. The one who splits the sea is still the one who joins people in marriage till this very day. He still builds a house for the solitary so they can dwell with a spouse. And he still redeems us till this very day, saving us through every situation we go through in life. And when he does that, what is our task? How do we recognize his hand in this work and answer him? We do what the Israelites did when he answered them at the sea. With tears and singing, we worship and we praise his name. Chag Sameach.